Hi, you're listening to Little Rockers Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I'm happy to be catching up with singer, songwriter, author and playwright. He burst into our lives 12 years ago through our TV screens when he was on Australian Idol. Gosh, 12 years ago, I can't believe it. He hasn't stopped working since. He's got 8 albums, 2 novels, and now a children's storytime app called What Time Is It? It's Storytime. Welcome, Damien Leith. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Good to chat to you.
Oh, Damien, it's great to chat to you too. Now, you're about to embark on a tour that's called An Evening with Damien Leith. It's a stripped-back tour, isn't it? It's just you, a guitar and your piano. Tell us a little bit about it.
It is, yeah. Look, there's been a lot of requests over the years. I normally tour with a band, but it is really nice when you just get down to that intimate sort of just with the audience. So I think it's going to be something pretty special. And audiences will get to hear all their favourites, I suppose.
And you'll be taking requests from the audience as well, won't you?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, and I think that's partly the reason why I'm doing the tour as well. A lot of people do have requests, and when you play with a band, quite often you can't veer off the set list. You got to stick to the set list because that's what everybody's learned. But when you're solo, you can do whatever you want. So I think there's a great opportunity there for audiences to really hear what they'd love to hear.
Now, I was reading there's 8 shows in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria that are running over a couple of months. You're also a dad to 3 young children, or youngish. They're 12, 10 and 6. Do you plan your tours around the kids or do they come along with you?
No, look, I do try to plan it. Even this year, I've really cut back on the amount of shows I'm doing this year. Last year I did about 80 shows. And 80 shows means a lot of time traveling and a lot of time away. So this year, I've stripped it down. I've gone a solo run, which is just myself, and that's not massive. And then I have a big tour later in the year. But again, it's just really, as the minimum amount I could without, being away from home too long.
Yeah, and what I love and what we're about to talk about is that when your kids were younger, you started recording stories for them to listen to while you were away on tour, and you've now got a collection of 15 or so of these stories that you've just launched on app and also on CD. Tell me about the stories.
Yeah, look, exactly what you said. This whole concept of the app and the CD came about really from stories that I told my own kids. And I still tell them, actually. My younger kids still love stories at night. I've always loved telling stories, and I used to go into the bedroom and I'd make up a story on the spot based on things they might have told me or things that they were really into. So it was always kind of geared around whatever sort of things, were going on in their life at the time. And like I said now, turns out I had recorded nearly 100 of these on my phone. Yeah, there's loads of these stories, and they're all, decent length as well. They're 15 to 20 minutes long. So good length stories, lots of them. And at the start of last year, my wife and I just said, I think a lot of other parents would like this. We don't always have time to tell a bedtime story at nighttime. Sometimes you're absolutely exhausted, or you've got to go somewhere. So to have this other option of being able to play a story that's already been tried and tested on kids, I think it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, and there's something that I really love about, picture books are fabulous. Children can look at the pictures and use their imaginations, but there's also something that I really love about audio, and you touched on it there where you say children can close their eyes and use their imaginations to picture the story in their own minds, and there's something really magical about that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, look, I find with my kids, nowadays my kids are exposed to so much. Between TVs and digital devices, even at school, the school has a requirement for bringing devices into school. So it's very common now, and we've always tried to, take our kids away from that, give them time where they can actually just relax, let their brain unwind and just chill out for a while. There's actually loads and loads of research actually that says, for a kid to just sit back and just listen and use their imagination is almost as important as them, physically reading things. And, there's benefits, for that whole process of just allowing your own imagination kick in and create your own sort of visions of what the story is all about.
And your kids are lucky. My kids asked me to make up a story, and My imagination doesn't take me very far. It's more a case of, there was a dog and he ate a bone, and that's kind of the extent of it. Whereas your kids are quite lucky.
You know what? It is, sometimes it is hard. I mean, even sometimes I'd be trying to come up with something on the spot, and I've always found my kids are the best catalyst for the story, because really and truly, like my daughter Kiki, she'll if I'm standing there and saying, okay, well, what do you want a story about? And she'll say, oh, well, today so-and-so did this and blah, 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 and she'll tell me some whole big story about something that happened during the day, and then I'll use that as a catalyst to create a story from it. And they love it because they can relate with it. And I think that's what's going to be nice about these stories for other parents. All kids are all going through similar sort of things. And I think a lot of kids will relate with these stories.
Yeah, and we do forget that they have such amazing imaginations, don't we? Especially if they are on their devices a lot and they're not really actively using their imaginations. But that's what I should get them to do next time. Just get them to tell me the story.
Oh, well, that's what I'm loving about it as well, because as a result of doing all these stories, my kids do, every now and then I say, okay, no, you tell me the story. And again, they'll sit there and I'll record them. And I've got recordings of them telling stories. And they're fantastic. I love their stories, and they remind me, even with mine, that you can go really extreme with your stories, because they will. They'll add all sorts of crazy things to their stories. So it's a wonderful thing to know that, you can make it even more adventurous if you want, because the kids love that.
Yes, and your kids are on the app and the CD, aren't they, across the 15 stories? It is a collection of 15 stories that you're launching with, isn't it?
It's 15 at the moment. Actually, to be totally honest, I'm adding more all the time. So when people get the app, they'll get 15 right from the start. But you'll just constantly get updates, because I'm just going to keep adding them. I think it's just a nice thing. The more you have, the more you've got to work with, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And now one of the questions that I always like to ask the artists that I speak to is, so many that I do speak to have gone from making music for adults to having kids and then making music for children. You've obviously gone into doing stories for children, but did it ever cross your mind to make music for children as well?
No, it didn't actually, mainly because my kids, what they're actually into music-wise, they love music, but they're really into all the current sort of music. They've never really got into kids music, the kind of traditional idea of kids music. They've also been really into, they're into rock and, you hear like AC/DC and all this sort of stuff. So, and they have been from a young age. So, so I've kind of bypassed that kind of kids music. It's just the way it worked out.
There you go, and it led you into Storytime anyway. Now, you can hear a few of the stories from Damien Leith's Storytime app and CD on Little Rockers Radio. We're playing it all this week, so it's at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. daily, so make sure that you switch on and take a listen. You can find out more about going along to an evening with Damien Leith, and to book your tickets, visit damienleith.com, and to download the brand new app, What Time Is It? It's Storytime, or to buy the CD, you can visit damienleithstorytime.com. These links are also available on our site at www.littlerockersradio.com.au. Thank you so much for joining us today, Damien.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks a million for having me. Yeah, really appreciate it.
That was Damien Leith on Little Rockers Radio. Thank you so much for listening.